Granbull is the best Pokemon in GSCUU and is an incredibly important and key Pokemon in the metagame. However, while Granbull has always been top tier, it was not thought of as the best Pokemon until around 2020. For most of GSCU's lifespan, Nidoqueen was considered the best Pokemon in GSCUU, and that was just what everyone believed. Granbull was still one of the best Pokemon in the tier, obviously, being an extremely useful defensive Pokemon that could sweep unprepared teams with its cursed Rest Talk set. It also had access to Heal Bell, which he used much more commonly back in the day. However, as GSCU began to grow in player base, opinion on Nidoqueen started to go down a bit. GSCU had evolved in a way that didn't favour Nidoqueen, and this was before the extreme rise in Piloswine, which made almost nobody think of Nidoqueen as the best Pokemon anymore. At this time, the top two in GSCU were universally agreed to be Nidoqueen and Granbull, and people were realising that the effect Granbull had on GSCU and how it shaped the tier was leading them to think it was the best Pokemon. Granbull forces a normal resist on every single GSCU team and has extremely limited counterplay. People also began to experiment with more movesets on Granbull, most notably a cursed hidden power ground set that had almost no counters aside from Shuckle and Amistar. These days, Granbull is by far the most common answer to the question of who was the best Pokemon in GSCU from experienced players. It simply defines and shapes the tier more than any other Pokemon and is always a top 2 Pokemon in usage in tournaments. So let me go on to why Granbull is so good. GSCU is very lacking in good normal resistant Pokemon. The amount of good ones is pretty much limited to Haunter, Amistar, Magneton, Kabutops and Shuckle. While these Pokemon are decent, they all have flaws and let in key threats. Amistar lets in Qwilfish and Blastoise, Magneton lets in and is destroyed by ground types, Haunter is frail and vulnerable to pursue, Shuckle is passive and entirely free entry for Qwilfish, and despite its resistance to normal, Kabutops is not a great answer to Granbull over time. These Pokemon are difficult to fit, but you have to run them. Pretty much the only Pokemon other than these normal types who is a reliable check that can actually threaten Granbull is Slowbro, who is far less popular than it used to be. Granbull has no relevant weaknesses in GSCU and respectable physical bulk, letting it check Pokemon like Nidoqueen, Gyarados, Scyther and Hypno. It can use these Pokemon as an opportunity to use Curse to pose a sweeping threat. Granbull also has an extremely powerful 120 base attack, which means the 3 KOs almost the entire tier with unboosted return. This also means that special attackers that can threaten Granbull, like Mr. Mime and Electabuzz, are not safe answers at all, since return does a fuck ton to them. Curse Talk Granbull has an extremely powerful mix of offensive and defensive utility. It makes it extremely easy to splash on teams. It is able to 1v1 almost the entire tier and provides defensive utility against Pokemon like Nidoqueen and Gyarados. It is also one of the few Pokemon who can break through Hypno. It can be made even more difficult to deal with by being paired with Pursuit Electabuzz, who can remove Haunter, the most common normal resist. Granbull can run several other movesets as well. A Heal Bell Rest Talk set used to be very common, being able to remain offensively threatening while healing status on Granbull's teammates. It is most commonly used on semi-sol teams with Pokemon like Bellydrum Quagsire, as a Heal Bell user that is not entirely passive, unlike Chansey. A set of Return, Hidden Power Ground and Rest Talk is also used as a recipient of Swords Dance from Scyther, but this strategy can be hard to pull off, so this set is not used much anymore, especially with the recent ban of Agility Pass, which was the style that this set was used on most commonly. Instead, Granbull's most common set bar Curse Rest Talk set is Curse plus Hidden Power Ground. With boosted Hidden Power Ground, Granbull is able to obliterate Haunter and Magneton while doing a decent amount to Amistar and Graveler. As a result, this set has close to 0 defensive checks and can bust through teams when played well. While it loses out on the longevity of Rest Talk, this Granbull set makes up for it with sheer wall breaking potential. Granbull can run a few other moves after Curse, Return and Hidden Power Ground, with Lovely Kiss, Protect and Thunder being the most common ones. Lovely Kiss can shut down Pokemon like Haunter, Scyther, Gyarados and Nidoqueen, so Granbull can set up on them easier. Protect can be used to regain leftover recovery and scout for Explosion, while Thunder 2 kills Amistar and Slowbro, who otherwise check this set well. This set is best fit on teams with Paralysis and Light Screen, particularly HO teams with Electrode. It is also a good lead with Lovely Kiss to shut something down and act as an early game wall breaker. In conclusion, Granbull is the best, most defining Pokemon in GSCUU. The only real flaw it has are its speed and lack of resistances, which means it almost always goes last and can find it hard for it to switch in and recover HP with rest. Its low special defense can also be taken advantage of by special attackers like Mr. Mime, But as I mentioned earlier, these Pokemon take a fuck ton from return, so they are at best risky answers.